Mouseketeer's roll call. Count off now.
Karen. Cubby. Doreen. Lonnie.
From Mouseketeer to successful actor, writer, and director, the amazing Lonnie Burr on this edition of Jodie L.A.
Welcome everyone to Jodie L.A. We have a great guest tonight, and it's Lonnie Burr, and I want to thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think everybody knows you. We all grew up with you.
Yeah, well, I'm not an ex-Mouseketeer, you know.
Well,
I'm a Mouseketeer still. 50 years and counting.
You'll always be a Mouseketeer,
That's
right?
That's
but
right.
what people probably don't know is before the Mouseketeers, you were in show business as a little kid.
I did my first professional work for money in 1958 when I was 5. Oh, whoops, 48. 48. I try that, and it never works. But 48, and I was 5. And I worked on you know, television, national television, and radio, films, commercials, live performance, singing, dancing, acting, impressions. I had a running role in The Ruggles with Charlie Ruggles, my first running role in the series. My first film was Yank in Korea, played Lon McAllister's son, but I also did The Greatest Show on Earth for DeMille, Cecil B. DeMille, with Jimmy Stewart, and Hans Christian Andersen, whom I happen to be related to.
Oh,
with
really?
Danny Kaye, so they did a lot of publicity shots with Danny. Theater, I started the Pasadena Playhouse. I did my first lead there in my third play when I was 8. I did my first TV lead in The Range Rider, which was the eponymous character, the title character, the Holy Terror, was me with Jock. And I'd, you know, done a Cheerios commercial with the Lone Ranger and another commercial on Space Patrol.
And I know your parents were in show business.
My mom and dad were a dance team, Dot and Dash, in vaudeville and nightclubs. And my mom sustained a number of injuries, the last one being impaled through a chandelier in her head. And she said, I'm not doing this any longer. And then they began other work, and I came along, and I seemed to show this affinity for dancing and singing and getting laughs very young.
You're just a natural.
I guess so, I don't know. Not like Bob Redford in the movie, but yes. We moved from Kentucky to L.A. When I was 3, and I started taking dance lessons, which I'd been asking her about when I was 4. And I started performing at 4½, and then eventually by 5 I made my first money.
Really? Professional at 5?
Yep, and then I just kept going on, and I had a lead on a radio soap for about 100 performances, and was the Chef Boyardee product boy, you know, spokesboy for Chef Boyardee in radio. And then I had just done A Father Knows Best when I was asked to sign a 7-year contract with Disney for the Mickey Mouse Club in '55.
Wow. You were never a kid, were you?
Well, I was, because I was the guy who used to, you know, block punts everybody else was afraid to in football. So when I had a chance and I wasn't working, unless you're on a series, you have a chance. So I was a kid, but not while I was working, because you have to be a pro, you know.
So then you got an audition for the Mickey Mouse Club.
Actually, I didn't. I read for Marty in Spinnin' Marty because it paid more, and it was a lead role. And I didn't get it, and my mom called Mimi, David's mother, and he went in. I don't know if that's why I got the role or not, David Stoller. But they wanted me to do to audition, but they were having a cattle call with hundreds of kids every day for days and days, weeks, and my agent wouldn't let me do that. And it was also paying a lot less. Spinnin' Marty, they got $400 a week. I didn't find this out till my late 50s at a SAG meeting, but we started at 165, which became 185 when we finally signed the contract. So we started SAG minimum 185. But they wanted amateurs. Walter said, I don't want any show business kids. I didn't think of myself
they just want
as
normal kids.
Yeah, but I didn't think of myself as a show business kid. But at any rate, they were doing a recording at down by Paramount on Melrose at Capitol. And another mother called my mom. She threw me in the car. I went down there. I sang on it. It was just kids and one adult, Jimmy Dodd. He said, do you also act and dance? And I said, well, actually, I act and dance better than I sing. And he said, okay. And I had a private audition for Jimmy, Hal Adelquist, and Bill, who was the executive producer of the Mickey Mouse Club. So I got in by accident.
So it was really by accident?
Yeah, see,
wow.
I was unique and Annie was unique, Annette, because she was doing a ballet, which for some reason Walt happened to be at and saw her, and she's the only person that he cast.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And so there were how many original Mouseketeers?
Well, over the 3 years we filmed, the show ran for 4 years, there were 39 kids. There were only 9 of us that lasted the entire filming. 4 guys, Cubby, Tommy, and Bob, and myself, and 5 girls, Annette, Sharon, Darlene, Doreen, and Karen. Cheryl's well known. She was only on 2 seasons, 2nd and 3rd.
I see.
And the rest were in for, most of them for 1 year. Cheryl for 2 seasons, Dennis for the 1st and 2nd season, and then there were 4 who didn't last long at all for various reasons. One of whom was Paul Peterson, who had an attitude that wasn't commensurate with what they wanted, and left after about 2 weeks.
Oh,
2 of Mickey Rooney's many progeny, after about 2 months, got in the paint department, decided they wanted to change the sets because they were Picasso. Hike. And the first day, Dallas Johann just was terrified and couldn't make it. So he was replaced by his brother, John Lee, as Mouseketeer Lee, the first season. But most of them were all just for 1 season, 1 year.
Oh, and so you made it for the whole 4.
Yeah, well, for the 3 filming, because we did about 360 films. And we had 24 kids the first year, then it cut down to like 14 the second, and then they'd let some more and get some more in, about 14. Because nobody had ever done that in television at that time, and they didn't know how they get all the product in. That's, you know, we didn't do the full hour. It was 5 hours a day every week. And you didn't do 22-week seasons like you do now.
Did you ever think that it would become the show that it was?
Who
Forever
knew?
and ever. I
Well,
mean,
being connected with Walt Disney, of course, you think there's a possibility, but you didn't know. But then when we ran in the 60s, we ran in the 70s, starting a 2nd version of the show. It didn't last very long. We ran from 83 to 89 twice a day. There's the original black and whites, which nobody watched anymore. And that started the 3rd version. And then from 95 to September 2002, we've covered more than 2 generations.
wow. And how old were you when you were a Mouseketeer?
Well, I was 11 and turned 12 mid-year. And my girlfriend the first year, Annette, was a little older than me, a little older woman. And we went together, and she was gracious enough to write in her autobiography that I was her first boyfriend, her first love, and gave her her first kiss.
Wow.
That was cool. I didn't know it was her, you know, that I gave her her first kiss. It wasn't mine, but I've never said anything.
You beat out Paul Anka.
That's true, too. I never kissed him either.
So after the Mouseketeers, after it was 4 years, like you say, what happened after that? Was there a lull, or did you just keep on?
No,
working?
I was, when they did the reruns, 58 to 59, I was going to my senior year of high school. I was 14. I was 3 years ahead in school. I had sort of had it. I had never worked a series like that, and they worked kids 6 days a week then.
Oh, so you did it
Not
Monday
5
through
days
Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, how many hours a day?
8 hours a day, but during the week you've got every day you have an hour for lunch, but then during the week for 5 days you'd have 3 hours of school. But on Saturday, no school. I was tired of doing that stuff, and I really wanted to learn how to act as opposed to just what most actors, unfortunately, adults do, but definitely kids, and that's interpret words and memorize them. It's not the same thing as my concept of acting. And so I finished my senior year of high school, turned 15, went to college, got a master's, a bachelor's first, then a master's in theater arts, and an unfinished doctorate in English literature, because I was just bored. I'd had enough theater at that point. But I learned about my craft. Unfortunately, when I came back into the business as a young adult, everybody wanted me to be this little boy who tap danced really well and had big ears.
And you had already grown up,
Yeah,
huh?
so it's the only time in my life I've earned my living in some way other than acting, singing, dancing, and as an adult, as a writer, director, or choreographer. Just for 2 or 3 years there. Then I started getting things like the Beverly Hillbillies, not my choice of roles. So I went to New York. I said, to heck with this. I was in my 20s, and I had just come off my first very short marriage, because I very wisely saw that it was a good thing to go away from that situation.
So you went to New York and got into the theater?
Yeah, and I met my current wife there the first year. We've been together ever since. We're on our 36th anniversary is this year, and I started doing Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, stock, etc. Occasionally some TV.